she found this woman, befriended her, and then was caught making a plan to attack me with my stepmother. And the PI came forward. And that's, I no matter how many times I said, look, she said she's going to kill me, this and that, nothing would work.
Kerri Kasem is a multimedia personality, producer, and writer. You may know her from Sixth Sense with Motley Crue's Nikki Sixx or her many appearances on the E! Channel.
She's also the daughter of the late, great Kerri Kasem of American Top 40.
In 2014, she created Kasem Cares Foundation, an organization whose mission is to eliminate all forms of elder abuse through education, awareness, and legislative action.
And while working with her foundation, she met the woman who would become her stalker. I'm Jamie Beebe.
And I'm Jake Deptula.
On today's episode of Strictly Stalking, we sit down with Kerri Kasem to hear about the nightmare her stalker put her through while she was developing her nonprofit organization, the Kasem Cares Foundation.
Basically fired the staff, took all of his communication away, and said, you're never going to see him again. So I had a very public fight, which I won. I won guardianship/conservatorship over my father, but he was then taken state to state, hidden from all of us. And when I found him in Washington State, I had to fight all over again. It's a very long story. I actually go around the country speaking about this because this can happen to anybody. It doesn't just happen to people who are rich and famous. It happens all the time. People are put under guardianships or, a power of attorney, and then everybody that they know and love is blocked from seeing them because some abuse is happening, whether it's financial abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, whatever that may be. Once you isolate somebody, you can do, that's the start of abuse. So I went through this very public battle, and this is how my stalker came to be because of me trying to help my father and other family members, which is very weird.
That's interesting. And I mean, you're trying to do something, you're already probably stressed, so you're probably not as aware of, surroundings. You're working, you're fighting for this, and then all of a sudden someone comes out of the woodwork. Was it just boom, or
it was gradual. It was Facebook, and at that point, anybody who needed help, I was helping. And I would call up people. They'd leave me their number on social media, and I just pick up the phone and call them.
That's horrible.
It really is. No matter what someone's going through, a stalker can come into play at any time.
Absolutely. So at the same time she's fighting to see her father and change the laws to protect others, she's being tormented by a stalker.
Crazy. Let's hear from Kerri on how all this began.
This one woman found me on Facebook and said I went through the same thing, and then it was constant emails, constant phone calls, constant where are you with the text, and I invited her to a meeting when I first started my nonprofit. And that was a really bad mistake because it was from downhill from there on. It was.
What do you think the time frame is from like when she first started messaging you on Facebook to when you met her in person?
A few months, yeah. So it was, but it wasn't. It didn't get really super weird until it was kind of weird, but not. She seemed very passionate about what she wanted and wanted to help, and use this person. He can help you do this person, and it seemed more passionate. And then when I got to really know who this person is, very obsessive, very she would make things up that I would do or say, or that it was like everybody was out to get her. I cannot pick the phone up, and it was upset or like I'm lying. It was very odd, but it got to the point where this person would find all my friends on Facebook and start telling them bad things, or find where I was lobbying for my bill. Because after this happened to my dad, and part of my story is when you turn 18 in this country, you have no rights to see your parents. People don't believe that. You have no rights. So if you have an uncooperative caretaker and your mom and dad are living at the house you grew up in or in an assisted living, there are no laws that protect you. So if there's an uncooperative caretaker, it could be your mom, it could be a stepmom, it could be a sibling, it could be a step family member, and they say they don't want you in this house, you're not getting in.
I don't think a lot of people know this.
No.
I've never heard this before. And I've dealt with different estates and dealing with things in my own family, like preparing things. And then I've never heard this before.
No, I didn't know either. I mean, I know that your fight was very public. You know, read the news, you know, what the news said about it. So,
Right.
Which is a very small little thing.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't realize that. Like,
Yeah. So and the police can't help you. Adult Protective Services won't help you. Nobody will help you. So as I'm realizing that there's nothing to be done, and we go to court, and even though my father said to the judge through his attorneys, I want to see my children. I want my children making medical decisions on my behalf. So I'm with me and my team at Kasem Cares, we've changed the law in 12 states, 13 states, 12 states with 13 bills, and then 9 other states have adopted similar versions of my bill. So we've got
Great.
21 states.
Congratulations. That is
Thank
amazing.
you.
Seriously. Wow.
And so
Thank you.
this woman was interested in helping, being with the foundation. Did she have any part in it? Did she kind of...
Like in the very beginning, yeah, because I just trusted. I didn't know people. I just trusted her.
You know, we hear this all the time. It's unfortunate. When you're being stalked, there's very little the authorities can do until something drastic happens.
And Kerri did the same thing that many of our stalking survivors do. She fought back to change those laws.
And while she was fighting to change those laws, her stalker strikes again.
People who had been through this and people who were, who understood what it was like not to see your mom or dad or be told you're never going to see them again because you're passionate. And that's how most of my board is. They've gone through it. So I had to deal with this. And this is what's so horrible. This woman, I can't get too technical and talk about it too much because people will know who she is. So she would go, if I would put something up, or one of my board members at Kasem Cares would put something up on social media, she would find where we were lobbying the bill. And she would tell the senators and the politicians that I was doing porn, and I don't even want to forward how bad it's so ridiculous. It's like not even a bad forward, like stuff that you can even look up, that it's not that I was drinking, I was using the funds. My bill, and then he wrote me a letter saying we don't work with for profit. And I said, for profit? I'm putting my own money into this. For profit? I'm like, I'm asking you to pass a bill so people can see wouldn't listen. Just listen to gossip. And that was it. My bill got dropped. And this was happening. So we stopped putting out where we were going to do our bills next, which hurt us because we couldn't get people there to testify. And it was really bad. And this went on for over 4 years.
Oh, wow. That's a long time for her to be obsessing like that. I mean,
police wouldn't help me.
Yeah,
the police wouldn't help me. I got lawyers. We sent cease and desists. She wouldn't stop. It got worse and worse and worse. But here's what did it. And this is what did her in. She was telling people that she wanted to kill me. And that if I showed up, if I showed up to the state house, she was going to shoot me. If she saw me on the street, she'd run me over with a car, whatever. All these people started calling me saying, look, she's basically threatening your life. So she hated me so much. She found my stepmother. She found this woman, befriended her, and then was caught making a plan to attack me with my stepmother. And the PI came forward. And that's, I no matter how many times I said, look, she said she's going to kill me, this and that, nothing would work.
So over 4 years, this woman went from trying to befriend Kerri in a weird way to actually stalking her. And then she worked to sabotage Kerri's nonprofit organization before saying she wanted to kill her.
Beyond frightening, especially since Kerri had to be open and accessible to anyone needing her help.
It's also interesting that this is a case of a female stalking another female. While many stalking cases occur through some sort of obsessed attraction or relationship, this one appears to be based more on envy.
You know, I have an interesting fact here from the Atlanta Psych Journal, an article by Liz Curran. This type of envy stalking can be expressed by sabotaging another woman's professional reputation or job security. It can come in the form of malicious gossip or intentionally undermining another's status and position in the workplace. The intent is designed to destroy and deprive the victim of something of value to them.
That sounds exactly like what this woman was trying to do. Let's hear Kerri's thoughts on this and how it began to escalate.
So when I started doing the things that she wanted to help me with, or that she said started before me, even though there's no really evidence of it, that, I think it was upsetting to her. I also used a lawyer of hers that she suggested that he said that he had written a bill because he had seen this happen to so many kids, but nothing happened with it, nothing. So when I came and I said, look, I want to do a bill. I have to fix this. If I'm not going to win in court, I'm going to win, I'll change the law. And so he's like, well, I started this thing already. Look at, I have this bill. So my stepdad is a lobbyist. He came in, and then Assemblyman Mike Gatto came in, and we all rewrote this bill. And it was great. But in her mind, I stole all of her glory. I stole it all. And I'm like, but you could have been with me. We could have done this together. This would have been awesome. Like, anybody who wants to help, let's do it. But I think there was something where it was like I stole something from her.
This is a unique layer because we talk a lot about like people that want to get close to people. They want to be validated in their lives. This is another layer to that, where your existence and your plight is something that she finds not only a threat, but something that she wants to then pose a threat to you.
Yeah, it's just not right. There's not there's no reasoning in it. And it was just anger took over, and there was when you're angry, you're not in a sane, you can't make decisions. And
and when you're obsessed with somebody, what we've seen is that you can say one thing to them and they hear something else.
After a while, she would turn on whoever. So I'd have people saying, hey, here's some emails about you that she wants to do. And people would send me tons and tons of evidence. And so I have this, I go to court, and there's not one post and not one email or message she could show the judge that I ever wrote her back. Not one.
Well, and that is the best way to deal with the stalker, at least in the beginning, until you you have to get cops and everything involved. Is absolutely no contact.
Nothing. Yeah. And so I had, just tons of her, vitriolic letters and then messages. And there was not one evidence. There was no evidence against me. There was not one person that ever heard me say anything about her. There was nothing. She had nothing.
In this day and age, leaving a digital footprint is something that obviously, everybody talks about cyber stalking, this and that, but that's one way to be able to build a case.
And it was like, to have that, I've already, being in Los Angeles as a woman, you're kind of careful, but now you have this other threat, my stepmother and this crazy person wanting to hurt me.
As all this harassment evidence started accumulating against her stalker, Kerri decided to work with those who came forward along with the private investigator. She was determined to get justice in court.
But nothing is really that easy. It took her a long time and is extremely stressful.
Patrice called him up, and she said, listen, there's something you need to know. Because she at first believed this person about what a bad person I was and this and that. And then she started to really kind of look into it. And she actually came and met me. I didn't know that they were, But so it was very, very weird. She's like, okay, this has got to stop. This is going to stop now.
What was that phone call like? How did she reach out to you? What was that like?
It was weird. And she was very cautious, because she thought, oh, this, I was a bad person too, right? So it was cautious, but it was, I'm going to help you. I'm sorry for things that have happened, and I'm going to help you.
Yeah, that's an amazing turn of events.
For how long then was she playing both sides, I guess is how you say it?
Double agent. I was thinking double agent, but
at that point after that, I think she was done with them. Yeah. That was it. Yeah. She didn't, she didn't accept the offer. She didn't accept, because if she would have, she wouldn't have been able to tell me. Like, I guess there's a...
confidentiality.
Yeah, confidentiality.
Oh, because technically she's like
if she'd been the client
PI.
For both her and you, that would have been a conflict of interest.
Yes.
So that wouldn't have worked.
So she didn't take the job.
As all this harassment evidence started accumulating against her stalker, Kerri decided to work with those who came forward along with the private investigator. She was determined to get justice in court.
But nothing is really that easy. It took her a long time and was extremely stressful.
11 witnesses that I didn't know, I think 9 of them, flew in to testify against her. So so I've had a 3-year restraining order on this woman. And I have to say, after we got the restraining order, I've heard little things here and there, but she has left me alone. The same kind of writing that this person would write, like just nonsensical, crazy, angry, like the same stuff. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly who this is. And I had it all. And then I actually said, I know who you are, blah, 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 leave me alone. And that did her in court too, because
Good.
yeah, she said that she never wrote this and it never came from her. Yet the PI said that part of the plan was to get me to an event, to knock me down, rip my hair out, take it to a lab, and prove I wasn't Kerri Kasem's daughter. It was that elaborate.
Oh.
Yeah. So
that's
really complicated.
This is so crazy. And she was going to get her watch stuck in my hair to rip it out, and that they were planning on it. And this was the event. So she then says to court, I never wrote that. I never wrote that. We get the phone records and it shows it was not her number. It was probably a burner phone that she used, right? But it came 4 minutes after a call that she was on with the PI and my stepmother for an hour planning this.
And now, can you tell me a little bit more about the PI? What was his role?
It wasn't him. It was somebody they hadn't hired yet, so she could actually say something. It was somebody that they were looking to. It was, okay, so this woman has a lot of PI friends, so she thought that she would be in on it too. And she said, this is too much.
But
so
the PI was another woman?
It was a woman.
This is really interesting because it's all women.
It's weird.
Usually I like that, but in this case, it's different.
So I am not going to, that's why I'm not saying her name. That's why I'm not putting her,
And
all
that's
over
totally
the place.
fine. We don't need to put her into the limelight at all.
No.
But she did. She left me alone. But unfortunately, she has a history of harassment. And there are a couple people who wrote me saying, I had to move away. She harassed me and my son at school. Nobody would do anything, or they wouldn't take her to court because it's very, very expensive.
A lot of people Kerri didn't even know were willing to testify against her stalker in court.
That's because Kerri wasn't the only person that the stalker had obsessed over and harassed.
You continue with this behavior, we're going to prosecute.
I mean, I obviously we totally agree with that, but we have seen time and time again that, the cops don't take it seriously. They victim shame.
I don't know the stalking. I know there was one person who wrote me and she had to move away with her kid. I knew that one. But harassed?
It's a fine line.
It's countless.
Stalking and harassment, depending. It's a fine line.
It's countless. The people that have said, I had dealings with her, and after just a few, you can see that she's not right in the head. That's what I was told. And many people were like, look, if this does go to court, I'll fly in and testify, because they had been, harassed for so long. Like they wanted to have that come to an end as well. In the court papers and the next day, the event was real, but it was a really big event. And I'm like, you're not going to ask for a host the night before.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay, well, that's really great. Who is this? Who is this? Text. Can you tell me who's calling? Well, are you going to do it? Are you going to host the event? It's really important for the children.
Kerri spent 6 weeks battling her stalker in court.
That seems like forever, especially since she was dealing with her foundation and troubles with her father at the same time.
I know, but at the very least, she got some justice. Let's hear how Kerri felt when she realized her ordeal was finally coming to an end.
And how long is the order for?
Just finished.
Wow.
3 months ago. Yeah.
And everything's been good since that time.
Everything's so far so good.
Right.
Yeah, so far so good. I don't want to say to her credit, but it is, and she's left me alone. But it took a lot.
And did you go to the cops?
Several times.
How did that go?
I
can only imagine.
Okay, we'll check it out.
I can't imagine going through all of that at once and then having just that extra thing. And then court for 6 weeks. Was she in court?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The whole time?
Yeah. And what's sad is a lot of times, when you have people who are testifying, she didn't have one person that knew me testify. And everyone that I had dealings with her. So she has these people come and testify.
I'm so glad the restraining order worked. Oftentimes we've heard that it doesn't make a difference at all to a stalker, and that's really scary.
Yeah, I know. Kerri is extremely strong and stands up for herself no matter what.
I mean, she's still out there fighting to make sure correct laws are in place for our elderly so others don't end up in the same position she was in with her father.
And not just that, she's learned a lot about people in the process and has some great words of wisdom.
There are certain things that sociopaths do, and they all do it. And here's a generality, but the ones that I have met have done it. And so you can really watch for those, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see and to now see the flags and go, oh, nope, I'm gonna, good roads, good weather. Hi, how you doing? Gotta go. So I'm writing a book and I'm putting the flags of what to watch for. So you don't want to hire somebody like that. You don't want to get into a relationship with somebody like that. There's these people, when you find somebody like this, like a sociopath, you will find people around them that are always sick, find people that are always upset, getting into accidents. If there's always somebody who's sick around you, ask if there's somebody who's upsetting them. And it doesn't have to be stalking kind of things, right? Putting them down, making them feel degraded, not feeling good, telling them to do things and telling them that's not what I told you to do. There's so many things, but there's so many red flags of sociopaths, and people ignore them because unless you really don't understand that there is no feeling, they don't have any empathy for you, truly no empathy for you. They can fake it. They're really good at it. And there's a few sociopaths that have written books about this. So there's sociopaths that are like, I know I'm not, I have to fake this, and I know I'm not normal. I know I'm not, but to get through life, I have to fake emotions. I have to fake this and fake that so people think and they like me. Otherwise, I would be just so unlikable. And those people aren't necessarily like dangerous, like they're going to commit crimes. Maybe not. But if you're completely aware of yourself and you do this, but there's a lawyer that wrote a book about it and how he could manipulate people's instantly. And it's very scary because you really think these people have emotions or they think like you. They do not.
They don't.
No.
They do not. And when people say, oh, my life is this and my life is that, I'm like, get rid of the people who do not support you. Get rid of the people who tell you can't. They're like lifelong friends. You don't just do that. Well, okay, live your life that way because it's how it's going to stay. You're not going to grow when you have people like this around you, and you're only going to, your life is going to come crashing down. And people don't believe it. I've had people come to me years later and say, okay, that advice you gave me, I should have gotten out of this marriage. I should have gotten out of this. I should have fired that. My life is it's the worst it's ever been. And until it comes crashing down, you don't do anything about it.
Right.
There's some interesting points you brought up across the board, but one of them in terms of like identifying people within particular industries, like the healthcare and the assisted living communities, things like that, and especially anybody of note or fame. I mean, there's been cases like, Richard Simmons was a pretty famous one. I mean, it's still going on. Nobody really knows.
Well, he came out and said he was fine, but that doesn't mean, you never know.
Without an independent investigation, it was like
we're also only seeing what the media decides.
Exactly what the media. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I'm not really a big trust the media.
Mickey Rooney went through this.
Exactly.
Glenn Campbell went through this. I mean, literally cannot mention Kasem Cares without mentioning Kathleen Wright Braun, who is our angel, who's the reason why we are doing all of this, whose father was middle class up until his 60s. He wrote children's educational books, and he sold his company for $100 million in his 60s, late in life. And that's when the vultures came in and they took everything from the kids. They separated him. They wouldn't let the kids see their dad. They got somebody to marry him 3 months before he died. When he signed his marriage certificate, it said the Thomas Wright Group. It's how he signed his marriage certificate. He didn't know what he was doing. Yeah. So and there were certain things like $5 million that was supposed to go to his alma mater in Iowa was not given to it. The nunneries he was taking care of, he was very Catholic, never got their money. Just all the money that he wanted to, he was very philanthropic. He wanted to give it out, didn't go to where he wanted it. And there's still $70 million missing. So, but that's a big one, right? That's a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you have $1 in your bank account or $100 million, people will take advantage of you. You put somebody under guardianship, you get paid to take care of them, right? So it's it's just, it's a corrupt system that needs reform, guardianship reform badly. Because if you, let's say your mom is in another state and she, this happened to a lady, Bessie, requests a ramp to go up to her stairs to get to her front door. You could have a predator come, a for-profit guardian, and say, oh, go to a judge. This woman needs help. She's frail. She can't get up her steps. You know, she needs to be put under guardianship. The judge, in not all cases, won't even, they're supposed to talk to the person and the family's supposed to be notified. But what they will do is send it to the wrong address. They won't notify the family that there's a guardianship hearing. They'll go and say, well, I notified the family. They're not here. Nobody's here to take care of this old woman. You lose every single right once you're in guardianship. The person becomes you. A dog has more rights than somebody in guardianship. You can't make your medical decisions. You cannot vote. You're supposed to be a vegetable. This woman, Bessie, was completely fine. And when she finally stood up in court and said, I don't need help with my finances. I don't need help getting, you don't need to be telling me who I can and can't talk to, or charging me to, be on a phone call to talk to my daughter, or charging me to take me to lunch. And thank God she was just released out of guardianship, but most people never do. They never get out of guardianship.
This is you again. You're doing some amazing things, amazing education, and also just being able to get this word out, but also doing the steps to make the change. And we appreciate it. And I again, not knowing that, we appreciate your time and for joining us today.
Thank you. And if anybody is going through that, not just stalking, but not being able to see their parents, or you want to know how to, tips on taking care of your folks so they don't get stuck in a guardianship. And this happens a lot, especially if you're not near your parents. So if you want to know about getting good health care and everything, come to my conference. It's going to be in April. It's called the Kasem Cares Conference. It's our 4th annual.
KasemCares.org?
Yeah, KasemCares.org. Exactly. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Sure.
That'd be super awesome.
I think everybody needs to learn.
Yeah, I think this is Education 101 when it comes to aging and dealing with relatives and things, family situations. Again, this is one chord, and I'd been through that process with estates and things like that, and just guardianship. But I did not know.
Yeah.
And I've never heard a lawyer talk about it. I've never heard anything else. So thank you so much.
That's an amazing story of survival.
She's a fighter. I mean, not only did she battle her stalker in courts and won, but fights in honor of her father to protect others living in her situation.
Kerri has a conference coming up in April 2020 that will be extremely informational. For more information about Kasem Cares, you can visit KasemCares.org.
Thank you so much, Kerri Kasem, for joining us today and sharing your story.
If anyone out there is in need of help or is a victim of stalking, please reach out. You can find a list of resources on our Instagram at Strictly Stalking Pod.
I'm Jake Deptula.
And I'm Jamie Beebe. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Strictly Stalking with Kerri Kasem.